Welcome to the James Cast. I'm James Pikeway, and today I'm cooking up a little chili. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to share with you the James chili. As you can see, there is absolutely zero effort needed to make this. It's a little bit of time, having some cookware that works, and after years of trial and error, one thing I can tell you right now is a good quality cast iron cook set makes all the difference. And in this case, we're using a Staub, and we got a nice little set of these that we just kind of gotten into. So what have I got? What are we going to do with today's chili? Pretty basic stuff. I'm going to put in some ground beef, and in this case, I'm in Dubai, by the way, so we just got some Australian beef mince from Carrefour. I wish it had more fat, but I'll take what I can get. I'm going to be using a couple cans of Heinz beans, because everyone loves their Heinz beans. I'm going to put in some white beans. I'm going to put in some kidney beans, a little bit of onion. I'm going to use some tomato puree, a little bit of, what do we call this? Tomato paste. And I'm going to put in a little bit of Slap Your Mama. I love this mushroom kind of salt alternative. A little Cholula, and got here a gift that my wife made me a couple years ago. It's called the Magic Spice, and it's a collection of paprika and chili and other things. So we'll put a little bit of that. And the thing to remember, of course, when you're dealing with cooking, there's no bad cooking. It's just get it to taste. And here's the important thing to remember as you're cooking up a chili. Don't overdo it. Go incrementally when we talk about spicing and things, because if you overdo it, it's pretty hard to return. So, hey, I just grabbed a little bit of onion, and basically I've cut it up and I've put it together. Here, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna bring you in a little bit closer so that you can see what we're doing here and get a little look at it all. I'll just bring you in here and see if we can't make it all work. So we'll just put that up a little bit. And hopefully you can see everything. So what we've got here, let's put that a little higher, because you never know where she's going to go. So all I'm going to do is throw in some onion, make it really easy. And I you know, some people like to put a little bit of onion in, others don't. I kind of like to little caramelize it down and just get the onion going in there. I think it makes it taste kind of cool. And usually whack up the heat a little bit. I got to get something else here so I'm a little off camera here. Let's just move this out of the way for a sec. Oh, let's get that down. Let's get that down a little bit. It's amateur land and video time here. I'm going into the fridge, which is behind everything here. And let's just crank that up. I'm grabbing something that I really like, garlic paste. And I know someone's gonna say, garlic paste, James, what are you talking about? What are you doing there? But I love to use a little garlic paste, and I just use a knife full or so, throw that in, because this stuff, and there's lots of variety of it, is great. And I need something else, so don't move. I need something else, and what is always good here is, if you're going to be cooking up a chili and you're getting your stuff going, let's get another item here. I love a little bit of butter. Now, my wife will tell you that there's no need to put butter in everything. I, on the other hand, I'm going to tell you, butter makes everything. So the big challenge here, as always, is just getting everything going. So once you're doing that, once you're getting everything sort of cooking away, just get your onions in there. Maybe I'll just give you a look at that. I really got to go two cameras, don't I? But let me just give you a look. So there we go. Just got some onions and some butter, and it's just cooking away. It's simmering. Not a hard one here. Just get it going, and I think everyone is excited when you get the smell of butter and onions in a house. I think it really makes it. So I'm just going to get that going and get it, you know, just simmering away. Not too long, but just get it started because this whole thing is then going to simmer. So let's do that. So we get that going. Just don't be worried about the heat. Get that up. Now look, I always use these kind of things because I don't want to dent or wreck my cooking pots. And I'm telling you, these things. The other thing to remember when you're using cast iron as opposed to the aluminum is these things really hold the heat well. And the heat is intense. So once they heat up, even on low, they can be pretty severe. So you gotta sometimes keep your eye on it as you're starting to cook things. And so I got it at a pretty good high heat, caramelizing my onions a little bit. Oh, watch out. And what I'm gonna do is start thinking about my meat that I'm gonna put in and getting that all ready. So we got anything else we need to get that's off camera? I don't think so. No, I think we're good. Okay, so let's do it. Let's start thinking about putting our meat in. So how do you know when it's ready? Again, I like to just let them get a little bit soft. So they're softening up. Get a feel for that. And you know, just take a look. I'm using yellow onions here, so they're starting to yellow up a bit. I think that's kind of a good sign. I'm almost tempted to throw in a little bit more butter. I sometimes also, at this point, I like to throw in a bit of salt just to sort of give everything a feel. And salt, not too much, but salt really does help to bring out that flavor. Hey, look, I'm no chef, so you know, don't rely on me for the science and technology of this. But I've got just my ground beef. I've washed my hands already, so don't worry about that. And I'm just gonna throw that in the land of COVID. You always got to keep washing your hands, right? So I've got my meat, but now I got the problem is my hands are dirty. So I'll just hold on because what I'm going to do is, and I'm pretty crazy about this. I really like to keep washing my hands constantly as I'm cooking, and it's just, you know, and I'm a little bit pedantic as well because I like to get rid of all of my cans and stuff. So let me just grab my dish towel here and let's get back to it. So got my ground beef in, which means it's time to just stir that in. Let's get it browning. So remember, so what have I put in so far? I've put in 1 small yellow onion, put in some butter, I've put in some garlic paste, and now I'm just browning this stuff up. So let's just brown up the meat, the whole thing. And what I love about these pots is you can get let me just jump ahead. So I've got it browning here. I've broken it up so that it's in little bits. Put the lid on. Now, you're probably wondering, what's going on with this Tupperware? Because I got this Tupperware here. So you're probably asking, what's going on with that? Well, I like to make some broth and have a little broth handy. And in this case, I'm probably going to put just a little bit in, just to give it some liquid, a little bit more liquid than I'm going to get from my crushed tomatoes, just to get things going. It's always nice when you're cooking something out like this. I just whacked up the heat a little bit more, just so I can really get going. And I find the broth really helps to just give a little bit more liquid and give it some taste. Now I make my own broth, bit of spice, bit of chicken, throw it into a pressure cooker, let her go, and I let it go for about an hour in a pressure cooker, and I get this nice chicken broth, or I do a beef broth as well. And I guess you can do vegetables if you want to do a vegetable broth. Also, I find the pressure cooker is just the way to go. So I got this going. Let's give it a look. It's doing good. It's doing good. So the ground beef is in. I'm stirring it. And it's just mixing it all up. Just working at getting the beef nicely browned, and that onion sauce with the butter is just working on the meat. Let me give you a look at what this is looking like at this point. So there's what I've got going at this point, and it's just cooking away, and it's looking okay. It really is, I think, looking pretty good. So at this point, what I'm likely to want to start doing is start thinking about what am I going to be doing with my different beans and things. Now, there's a couple of schools of thought here. One school of thought is as you're using your beans and things, you know, you can go through the whole process of hydrating beans and whatnot, and that's a really good way to do it. If you got the time and you got the energy, great. If not, I just use the canned stuff. Now, when I'm using these classic whites and classic kidneys, you can, it's totally up to you how much you want to use. I'm just using two cans, and the reality is, let me just get a pots, by the way, is you need to use something on your hands, because otherwise the darn things get so hot you'll burn your hand every time. Unassuming, because they don't look hot, but they are. So we got that going. It's looking great. I should call this Ode to Jamie Oliver, shouldn't I? Yeah. Or WTF IK. WTF IK. You know the show. Go and look him up. He's awesome. Okay. It's time to start thinking about putting some of these beans in. Now that takes a little bit more effort, in that we've got a little bit more to do. So let me show you how that's all gonna pan out for a second, and give you an idea of what we're doing there. So what we're gonna do is, first of all, these all need to get opened. So I've got my Libby's here. I'm just gonna open those cans up, get them going. If you got kids helping you, be careful, sharp edges. Now the Libby's come, oh sorry, the Libby's. These are Heinz. Heinz. I do like Libby's. I was looking at Libby's, but I did get the Heinz, the trademark blue, right? Trademark blue. So when I'm using these, let me just get something to strain very nicely. They're canned, but I also like to strain them. And now I'm of two schools, because I've done this in a couple ways. Sorry to put my back to the camera, by the way. I've done this in a couple ways. One way is I've just thrown the entire can in as it is, which, you know, there's a lot of starchy stuff and things. And you might want that in your chili, or you might not. So I tend to just give them a quick little rinse, just to take some of that stuff off. And I find it just makes a better quality chili in the end. But, you know, again, as I keep saying, this is a little bit of art for anyone, and a chance to try and make something different. As the mighty Brock Chrysler would say, you know, just throw it all in, see where it goes. And it's interesting, because I've just got these kidney beans and I've put some water on them, and it's very foamy, almost like it's soapy, right? So clean them, nice to clean them all up. And I just throw them into this cup, no rhyme or reason what I'm doing there, and just get that going. We've got some few things we got to be opening, so let me get some scissors, and let's get back to the game, see where we're going. So let's throw things back over here. So next stage is just prep, right? And I think a lot of it is just, you're in the kitchen and you got things going, and you start to get a little nervous, because, oh man, what if it's gonna burn, and do I have everything ready? You know, as long as you got all the tools around, everything's good. So I just like to get a little bit of prep going as I'm doing things, and I did cut that onion up a little bit before I started the camera, and away we go. So I got things going, and it's time to take a look and see where we're at with this boil up, and it's looking pretty darn good. Let me show you what's... Now you might be asking, why am I putting that lid on? It sort of gives a nice steam effect, right? And it helps to really soften up those onions a little bit and cook it in with the juices from the meat. I know if you're vegetarian, you're going, oh man, that's awful. And I'm probably gonna get every chili connoisseur out there posting up, which is great. Let's do it. Let's all post up our chili. So that's where I'm at right now. A little browned. It's looking okay. And exciting. It's looking rather exciting. I think I'm excited where we're going so far, because it's looking good. So now what I'm gonna do, very simple, is put in my beans. And what you've got going on now, and this is very interesting, because there's two schools of thought. Do you start throwing in some spice, or do you start leaving it? Actually, I'm gonna throw in a little bit of spice. What have I got to do? I like the garlicky side of this. Got a little bit of garlic plus. Again, all this stuff available. And I just sort of put in a nice snowy cover, get it going. And you might say, what? As I said at the beginning, as I'm spicing all this up, the way I love to do it is to think simply about the incremental nature of the flavor. Ooh, that sounds very technical. But the point being, as I'm putting this all together, and as I start adding more things, they bring blandness or they bring contrasting flavors. So I like to just kind of get a base flavor going. At this point, it's not spicy at all, and just allow things to start to come together and start to loosen up. So I'm going to put the lid back on. There's quite a bit of liquid in there already, so that's good. And I've got the heat whacked up, so it's going okay. And that means you got to stand around. Or not. And the beautiful thing about chili is you start getting it going, you let things go a little bit, but there's a whole bunch of just cooking at a low heat that's going to take place. So I've just got these in here, nice high heat. I put the lid on so that we're going to get a little bit of steam in there. We're going to get some heat conduction going from all angles. And what's beautiful about these stove pots is the heat comes up, condensation goes on the top of the pot and fires it back down into the mix, but also you get this uniform heat across what's going on. So the sides and the top are all heating up. So you get quite a Dutch oven effect on your stove, which is beautiful. Now, look, go and look it up online. They're going to explain it way better than I do. But I can tell you this, these things get darn hot, but I also have the aluminum pots, right? We've all got the big aluminums. What happens when you're cooking something and you leave it on the stove and the big aluminums, you get that nice burned layer on the bottom? Doesn't tend to happen with these. But then I whack it right down, so the heat's pretty low, but it doesn't tend to burn to it like it does in the aluminum. That doesn't really, I mean, conducts heat really fast, the aluminum, but it doesn't hold that heat, whereas these cast irons hold that heat very nicely, so you can start cooking at a lower temperature. All right, so take the lid off. Let's see where we're at. Rogue onion, let's see where we're at. Give it a stir. Stirring's important. You'll love the sound of that. You love that sound. You hear it just bubbling away. Nice. Give that meat a little bit of a push. So what are we going to do? Let's add in the Heinz beans. Get your brands right. These are the new Heinz beans too, so we'll just give those an out there. Nice. Let's go with this one. Oh, nice. I think one of the things I love, and maybe we got to do this a little bit more often, is walk around cooking of stuff. Because if you're like me, it's like, man, you know, I got time, but I don't have time. And so being able to get a whole bunch of the things that I need at the grocery store, pre-ready to go, and then I can work my own little magic with it, I think becomes really important and fun. And, you know, a little bit of education for our kids so that they know what they're doing, know where to find stuff, experiment. So now I've got this going. I've mixed in the beans, I've mixed in my kidney beans, I've mixed in my meat, I've got an onion that's sort of firing through, and it's all starting to come together. Let me show you what it looks like. Let me give you the look so far, because I think it's kind of nice. Let me grab this camera. Here we go. Here we come in. Look at that. It's coming together. It's coming together. Everything's boiling and bubbling away. That's what you gotta like. It tells you something important. You're on the right track. Bubbling, very nice. All right, I've got my chopped tomatoes that I bought in the box. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna open up the lid a bit more because chopped tomatoes tend to be, keep your scissors handy, keep them clean, just keep them open. And this way I get my nice chopped tomatoes. And I'm gonna pour those in because that gives you that nice flavor. And you know what? I'm just gonna pour the whole thing in. Let's just dump it all. Be done with it. Now, of course, the pot's now getting pretty full. So you've got to be thinking about stirring it, but not stirring it onto the floor. I've done that many a time. So we're gonna stir it, keep stirring it. I'm just going from the side to the bottom and just bringing it through. What do we call that? I'm folding it. See, my wife's gonna say, yeah, you pay attention. I'm folding in my things. And now it's pretty darn full. And I'm actually looking at this going, man, maybe I should have used a different pot. But yeah, I think I got just enough. Now, when you take a little try of this at this point, tastes like nothing. That's what I'm gonna tell you. At this point, I got a clean slate. So I'm just gonna wash up my spoon that I've just used because, hey, you know what? not everyone wants to have James spit on their thing, and the reality is I've got a whole sink full of utensils here that I could have gone for. So at this point, it doesn't have any flavor really. So we're gonna start down the flavor road. First thing I love using, a little Cholula. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna just fire in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 little Cholula hits. Put the lid back on. I'm gonna fold in my Cholula. Folding in the Cholula. Here we go. Hello, Cholula. Cholula, fold it in. Here we go. All right, let's put that down. And let's see, what do we got here? Let's take a little taste. Okay, it's getting there. It's getting there. Got this Nom Nom Palace magic mushroom powder. I know, not those kind of mushrooms, but let me read you the label of this stuff. Where did I get this? Got this at Miami, in Miami Beach at Whole Foods. It was on the counter by the meat section. And it says, and you can go to nompaleo.com if you want to get more of this. This transcendent seasoning, salt adds, let me start again. This transcendent seasoning salt adds a much desired punch of umami to everything from scrambled eggs and burger patties to roasted veggies and stir fries. Use it in place of salt in any savory dish and brace yourself for the magic. It actually has a little bit of a bite to it. Oh, give me some. Yeah, woo! Hit you in the end. Okay, so let's put a nice gentle bit of that in. What do we go back to? The stir. And I'm gonna crank down my heat because it's really starting to go, which is good. And it is gonna all sit here. Now, the thing to remember is I'm doing a kind of a pre-season. I'm getting it started and I'm just making, getting myself into the feel for how is all this going? Is it gonna work? Do I have a little bit of a base seasoning in there so I get the taste? So let's just bring that out. Let's head back over and give it a try. What do we got going now? Oh, it's getting somewhere. It's getting somewhere. This beauty brought back to me from Atlanta by none other than Richard Kaywood, secondlightphotography.com if you want to go check out that man's brilliance. Slap Ya Mama. Might not be politically correct that. 1956, Wilda Mary Fontenot Walker gave birth to the creator of this award-winning seasoning blend. Every time she uses it, she receives a loving slap on the back and a kiss on the cheek, thanking her for another great tasting Cajun dish. So it's a little Cajun spice. And let me tell you, be careful with this. So I'm just gonna put some in my hand. Just a bit to start, just a bit to start. You see that? You see that? Just a bit to start. And we're gonna put that there. Why am I going for it just a bit? As I again fold it in, I've been slapped by your mama more than once. And while I don't mind having my chili burn my eyebrows off, and I'm not saying because I've got too close to it, the darn stuff, that slap your mama can be crazy. So let's just give a little taste again to this. Oh, it's getting there. Whoa! Oh. Now I got this little bit of gift from my wife a little while ago. And let's get a spoon. This is a nice little seasoning. She calls it magic powder. A little bit of salt. Yeah. A little bit of salt, a little bit of cayenne, a little bit of hot pepper. I'm gonna put that on top of the slap your mama. And essentially it's chili powder. So we put that together. And again, depending on where you're getting your supplies from, stuff can be pretty potent. So you wanna be careful what you're doing. In this case, it seems to be coming together nicely. So we'll just keep folding it in. And color's coming. The beans are still pretty solid, so they need some time to just sort of stew away. And chili's just like a stew, isn't it? Let's give that a taste. Oh, it's coming along. That's tasting good. All right, sorry to turn the back to you. I'm gonna throw in one other little ditty here. Steak and meat seasoning, carne asada, Chef Marito. This stuff is gold. The chicken one makes the perfect fajita. So I'm gonna put a little bit of this in my hand too. Again, gives a nice color. I'm gonna throw a little bit of that in because it just needs a little punch on the other side. So I got hot. I want a little bit of that carne asada feel, but it just blends in nicely. And I found, man, does it work? Uh-oh. Nothing worse than having your food flowing over the side of your pots and into the flame. So let's just get that off. I don't want to drop there. All right. Let's give that let's give this a taste, see where we're at. That's not bad. Yeah. All right. Now, I'm gonna drop in a little bit of this Cape Urban spice, and it's what's it a collection of in here? Paprika, pepper, salt, a little bit of mustard seed. I'll put a little bit of this on top. Let her go. Let her go. And I think we're good for the pre-spice, because what we're gonna do when we get to the end, after it's just sat and cauldron boil, cauldron bubble, a little bit, the House of Frightenstein, cauldron boil, cauldron bubble. That's what this is gonna do. So I got the pre-spice in there. Now we're just gonna see where it goes. So I'm just gonna, what we got now is an opportunity to go watch some TV, because what we're going to do, or in my case, go work on more syllabi for class. Let me just give this a taste, see where we're at. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's good. So in this case, didn't need to use some things. So I'm going to put the lid on and let it sit. So that the key things at this point, and it's pretty much done. What's going to happen is it's going to cook, 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 cook. I'll actually give you a look at where we're at now, and then we'll give you a look in a minute. But cook, 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 cook. In my case, we'll probably let it go. Probably let it go for probably about 2 hours on low heat. Heat's still on. I'm using gas. I got to make sure. Yep, heat's still on. So I'm going to let it go for about 2 hours and let it just boil away. Let's see what we got. But hold on, let's take a selfie. Let's get a selfie, you and me. Oh, hold on. Let's do it this way. Selfie, you and me. Here we go. Were you smiling? I'll check after. And so let me just show you where we're at, and then we'll come back and visit it in a bit. This is actually perfect because this is where you want it to be at. Yeah, I got a double camera, don't I? So take a look at this. This is my chili now is just boiling away in this pot, and you see those little bubbles? Not too much. That's low heat. That is the lowest. I can actually go a little bit lower, but that's what we're looking at. That's where you want it to be. Give it a stir, put the lid on, and away you go. And then just leave it. Now, what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll stir that up probably 2 or 3 times in the course of all of this, just to make sure that it's not sticking to the bottom and give it a little taste. And so now I've done this pre-spice, and what we'll do is we'll let it all sort of mix together, and with the heat and with the chemical change as some of the, I'm getting hot. Hold on a second here. I got like sweat coming down my face. Whew. So what I'm gonna do now is, remembering that I put some spice in, I've got the meat that's kind of breaking down, I've got my tomatoes, I've got my beans, I've got everything now that is working with the spices, and new flavors are being formed. And so you don't want to overdo things. So I've got a nice base going. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put on the lid, we're gonna leave it for a couple hours, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna see what we gotta do with the final spice. So, little recap. what have we been doing? We're making chili. Where have I got it? Nice medium-sized pot, something that's gonna conduct the heat nicely and that I can walk away from. I've just used things off the shelf. Heinz beans, lima beans, kidney beans, some spices that are around. I've got some wonderful chopped tomatoes that I've just used. And you'll notice I've also got some tomato paste. Now I shouldn't open this because I don't know if I'm gonna need it. But typically it's pretty thick now. Give it an hour, I'm gonna put in a little bit of this tomato paste. So we'll leave that out. I'm gonna clean up this stuff and I'm gonna let you see where it's going. How much meat did I put in? About a pound, maybe. Browned it, I put in a yellow onion, chopped that up into nice little bits, as you can see, you know, tiny, tiny little bits, and away we go. And what am I gonna do? Dream about my chili now. Okay, we'll be back. James here at the James Cast. We're cooking up some chili. Stick with me. All right, welcome back. James here, and it's the chili finale. So what have we got? You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna take the lid off and we're gonna get a look together at where we're at with this chili. So we'll take my fantastic camera skills, we'll dive back in, and here we go. Lid's coming off, and what do we got? Oh, look at that. Not too bad. So you can see what happens is you start to get this little bit of a separation here. You start getting some water on top, and you know, that's okay. That's okay. It's been cooking and you've been looking at it. Maybe you've been giving it a little bit of a stir for the last couple of hours. So your chili is looking pretty good. Just, you know, I like to use the old silicone spoon, and I just give it that stir and I just fold in that water. Now, here's where you might find that you need to do a couple of things. So the first thing that you might find is that liquid has really sort of manifest itself. There's quite a bit, and you're going, oh, it's a little more soupy than I like. So what do we do? Here, let me just fire you back in here. See, I've stirred it, and I might say, it's a little more soupy than I'm really happy with. So remember back when we were starting, and I had that tomato paste, and I said, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna need it. Well, this is where I'm gonna squeeze in a couple tablespoons of that tomato paste. I'm gonna give it a nice folding stir. That's gonna help really thicken that up and really give me a nice consistency, because chili's all about that consistency, right? So then we're gonna take another taste and see where we're at. There we go. So first of all, it's nicely thick. It thickens up nicely when you add that paste, and that'll really give it a go. So now I'm gonna give it a taste. Let's see what we got. Because remember, you don't want to overspice at the start. You want to let all those spices just kind of mix in with everything, and then you get a feel for where you are so you can make your final touches. Oh man, that's nice. So two things it's going to need. One, it could need a little secret to sweeten it up a little bit. Not a lot, but sometimes it's nice to have a little sweetener. I recommend a teaspoon of brown sugar. In this case, it doesn't need, but if I was going that route, I would simply just put in, literally, I'd start with a half a teaspoon of brown sugar, and that'll give you that little sweet edge. Not too sweet, then you go, oh, this is sweet, but just something that, takes the edge off a little bit. Second thing, it could need some salt. In this case, I got it okay. Now, truth be told, I put a little bit of salt in the middle when we weren't here. So salt could be another thing. Third thing is, in this case, you got two options. I'm gonna fire in another whack of Cholula. 1, 2, just two little hits. But you could also just put the Cholula on the table and let anyone add their own. I already know that everyone who's eating it's going to want it a little bit, it needs a little, the zing is there, but it needs a little more zing. The zing is there, but it needs just a little bit more of a hand to pull you in, as opposed to just a gentle push, a little pull. So throw in a little bit more Cholula, give it a stir. Let's give it another taste just to see where we're at. Where have we ended up? Ooh, it's hot in the hand. Be careful of that. Oh man, that's tasty. That really is tasty. So there we go. What a simple dish. Took an onion, cut it up into fine pieces, threw it in the pot with a little bit of oil, and butter and a whack of garlic paste. Stirred it up, let it go nicely brown, put the lid on, threw in about half a pound to a pound of ground beef, stirred that up, broke it all up nicely, put the lid on, let it all cook and combine, and then jumped into 2 cans of Heinz beans, the saucy ones, a can of lima beans, a can of kidney beans. Boom, we've got our ingredients and it's cooking away. We're laughing, we're woohoo! Threw in some salt, threw in a little bit of seasoning. What did I throw in? Slap your mama, so that's a Cajun spice. I threw in some Cholula to start with, threw in some salt, threw in some of this South African seasoning salt that's got a little bit of cayenne in it as well. What else did I do? Oh, I threw in the magic mushroom sauce. Remember that stuff? Beautiful. This was the slap your mama. Remember it? Beautiful. And I threw in a little bit of this carne asada seasoning. Let it all mix. Let it cook for about an hour and a half, low temperature, just so it does its thing. You might want to stir it once in a while. I recommend the cast iron because you can go real low and it'll just generate that nice top of water. Stir that in. Top it off in the end. Give it another try as I did. Does it need salt? If so, go light because you don't want to oversalt things. Does it need a little bit more spice? If so, go for it. Does it need to be thickened up? Add a little tomato paste. Does it need just a little edge to be taken off, a little bit sweeter? Throw in just a half teaspoon of brown sugar. Stir it all up. As you can see, not a huge pot. And just let it go. This is ready to eat right now. But you know what? I'm going to turn off the heat and just let it sit. And we're going to have it in a couple hours time. So just look at that texture. Oh man, Guy Fieri would say, "Oh, James, give me a whack of that, man. I really like it." That's what he might say. Doesn't sound like Guy Fieri at all. Ha! Anyway, that's James, the James Cast. I'm James. Thanks for hanging out. Who knows, maybe we'll cook again. But we're definitely going to be talking about metrics. I know, you're going, metrics, really? Yeah, we got to do a little bit of that. We're going to talk a little bit about communication theory. That's what I do during the day. I'm a professor. And, of course, podcasting. Got a lot of that to do, too. So, hey, just hang out at the James Cast. Something here for everyone. Thanks for hanging out while I was cooking the chili. We'll see you again soon. And whatever you're doing, remember, cooking is just a lot of fun. Get in the kitchen. Be a little creative. Enjoy yourself, because it's all about enjoying ourselves. Hey, thank you very much for hanging out. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye.